Hi, my name is Raul Reyes, and my presentation will be on ethics. And in planning ahead on my presentation, I'm going to cover a series of questions. What is ethical behavior? How do ethical dilemmas complicate the workplace? How can high ethical standards be maintained? What is corporate social responsibility? And how do organizations and governments work together in a society? Ethics, as many of you know, is a code of moral principles, set standards of good and bad, and opposed to right and wrong. Ethical behavior, on the other hand, is what is expected or accepted as good and right in the context of governing moral codes. Again, you have laws, values, and ethical behavior. You have the legal behavior is not necessarily ethical behavior. Personal values help determine individual ethical behavior. You have terminal values and you have instrumental values. Now, there are different types of views when it comes to ethics. You have the utilitarian view of ethics, which is the greatest good to the greatest number of people. You have the individualism view of ethics, which is the primary commitment is to one's long-term self-interest. And you have the moral rights view of ethics, which respects and protects the fundamental rights of all people. And of course, you have the justice view of ethics, which is fair and impartial treatment of people according to legal rules and standards. So, in reviewing these four views of ethical behavior, you have the individualism view, which poses a question is, does a decision or behavior promote one's long-term self-interest? And then you have the moral rights view. Does a decision or behavior maintain the fundamental rights of all human beings? You have the justice view. Does a decision or a behavior show fairness and impartiality? And then you have the utilitarian view. Does a behavior or decision do the greatest good for the most people? Now, culture issues in ethical behavior can be seen in two ways. You have the culture relativism, which is the ethical behavior is always determined by culture context. And then you have the culture universalism, which is a behavior that is unacceptable in one's home environment, should not necessarily be acceptable anywhere else. In that aspect, we can always ask ourselves how international businesses can respect core or universal values. Because this is very important, especially in a global environment and a global economy. It's important to ensure that we have international businesses respect the core or the universal values. And some of these are the respect for human dignity. It creates culture and values employees, customers, and supplies. It also keeps a safe workplace. It produces safe products and services. And then you have the respect for basic rights, which is the protection rights of employees, customers, and communities. You also want to avoid anything that's threatening the safety, health, education, and living standards. And then, most importantly, be good citizens. Support social institutions, including economic and educational systems. Work with local government and institutions to protect environments. These are some of the aspects that are very important. How do ethical dilemmas complicate a workplace? Well, an ethical dilemma occurs when choices, although having potential for personal and/or organizational benefit, may be considered unethical. Ethical dilemmas include discrimination, sexual harassment, conflict of interest, customer confidence, and organizational resources. And this is where a lot of people get in trouble with ethical dilemma and how you go about, overseeing this. Locally here in Webb County, Laredo, we've had several issues of ethical dilemmas. And, a lot of the times when employees or elected officials are faced with any type of dilemma that involves ethics, once you break or once you lose the public trust and confidence, it's very hard to get back. And one of the problems is that you have a lot of people trying to think they can circumvent the laws. Recently in the Laredo Morning Times on October 31st, 2013, one of our county commissioners was being investigated on nepotism, a nepotism lawite, and she was investigated in a relative's promotion. And the story is quite fascinating. If you have a chance, go ahead and view it, and you'll probably find more information on this. But one of the most important aspects of ethics is being true to yourself and also to the people that you represent and the people that look up to you, and especially your employees as a senior level management. And you don't necessarily have to be an elected official for that matter. Any employee or any senior level management individual within any organization can find himself or herself in ethical dilemmas. For example, on October 19, 2014, we had a big story air at the Laredo Morning Times, and it was about corruption runs deep. And you had a series of elected officials and directors from different departments, being accused of acting in unethical manners. You had the former county commissioner who was indicted on bribery charges, a mayor who was arrested on gambling and money laundering charges by the Webb County Sheriff's Office. And then you had a city councilman who was arrested on possession of cocaine and filing a false police report. And then you had Justice of the Peace who was arrested by the FBI on extortion charges and who pleaded guilty. And then you had an LISD trustee who was indicted and arrested by the Texas Rangers for tampering with government records and engaging in organized criminal activities in connection with the previous job as Webb County Utilities Manager. And then you had a city councilman who was arrested by the police department on theft charges. You can see how this behavior causes not only the community and your peers to question ethics and question a lot of the leadership that is currently ongoing here locally. So ethical behavior can be rationalized by convincing yourself that behavior is not really illegal. Behavior is really in everyone's best interest. Nobody will ever find out, and the organization will, in essence, protect you. And obviously, for some people, this wasn't the case. Factors influencing ethical behaviors include the person, family influences, religious values, personal standards, and personal needs. The organization, supervisory behavior, peer group norms and behavior, and policy statements and written rules. And of course, the environment, government laws and regulations, societal norms and values, and competitive climate in an industry. You know, so how can high ethical standards be maintained? Well, you want to also you want to make sure of certain things. You want to recognize the ethical dilemma. You want to get the facts, identify your options, test each option. Is it legal? Is it right? Is it beneficial? Decide which option to follow, and double check decisions by asking the spotlight question. How would I feel if my family found out about my decision? How would I feel about this decision if it were printed in the local newspaper, and then take action on that. But one of the most important things and one of the best ways to avoid all of these problems is for every organizations to have ethics training, a structured program that helps participants to understand ethical aspects of decision making, and that helps people incorporate high ethical standards into daily lives and helps people deal with ethical issues under pressure. There's a lot of things that go on. You have the whistleblowers, which exposes misdeeds of others to preserve ethical standards, protect against wasteful, harmful, and illegal acts. And of course, you have laws protecting the whistleblowers can also vary too. So you also want to be careful with that. There's also barriers to whistleblowing, and they include strict chain of command, strong work group identities, ambiguous priorities, and then you have the organizational methods for overcoming whistleblowing barriers. Ethics staff units who serve as ethics advocates, and of course a moral quality circles. And you also want to have ethical role models. Top managers serve as ethical role models. All managers can influence the ethical behavior of people who work for them and with them. And excessive pressure can foster unethical behavior. Managers should be realistic in setting performance goals for others. But most importantly, you want to have a code of ethics, which is a formal statement of an organization's values and ethical principles regarding how to behave in situations susceptible to the creation of ethical dilemmas. Areas often covered by the code of ethics includes bribes and kickbacks, political contributions, honesty of books or records, customer-supplier relationships, and confidentiality of corporate information. So, in essence, you can see why ethics is important. You can see why ethical dilemma plays a big role in any organization, and especially when you have to make certain tough decisions. But you also want to make sure that you do the right thing and that you ask yourself whether or not your behavior is acceptable and lawful, and at the same time, how would you feel or your family feel if your decision prompted you to come out on the front page or get into any type of future problem. So I hope this presentation really helped you get a landscape idea of why ethics is very important. And I hope if you work for an organization that doesn't have a code of ethics, that this would be something that you might want to bring to light and possibly work in creating a code of ethics for your organization. Thank you very much for your time.